Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I'm John Calian, and I lead the Deutsche Telekom Innovation Laboratories. And today we're going to spend an hour talking about blockchain. And what that really means, though, is we're going to talk about trust. So I hope at the end of this hour you have a better understanding that when we talk about this technology referred to as blockchain, we're really talking about trust. Our lab has been working for a year and a half or more now and really concentrating on this technology. Not so much on cryptocurrencies and things around that and financial services, but really about the technology itself. So we've taken a look very closely at a lot of the software code that's powering all these blockchain networks. And as we got into the technology, of course, we put our business hats on and we thought, how can we as a telecommunications company take advantage of this new technology? So we've been rapidly writing a lot of software code, but we've also been working with different teams within our company. And then, of course, we're co-innovating with a lot of other partners about what we can do with blockchain, which, by the way, is just one type of distributed ledger technology. Today, though, we're going to focus around this idea of machine-to-machine economies. We want to think about what's underlying this potential machine-to-machine economies and how can we get trust into the system. And now I'll introduce you to Dr. Alexandra Mikityuk, who actually leads the technology team at the labs.
Hi, everybody. My name is Alexandra, and I'm really excited to be on this stage, and I'm really happy that you're all joining. And let us take a look at the agenda. So we're going to spend 1 hour all together, and we decided to split our session into 3 parts. So first, we're going to make an introduction about our current thinking about trusted IoT ecosystems. That's what we're really excited about, and we're really passionate about this. The second part, we're going to have a sneak peek of the live demonstration around the project that we're executing together with our partners from Trusted IoT Alliance, Toyota. So we're actually going to launch the challenge on stage, which is super cool. And the challenge is called Road to from Barcelona. That's what you've seen on the first slide. And the third part, we're going to invite our partners on stage, and they will tell you about our work in Toyota, about the working groups and challenges we're working on. So let's start. John will start telling us about trusted IoT ecosystems and why it's so exciting.
So first we'll think about humans and identity. I assume some of you use social media, Facebook and Google. And I also assume probably almost nobody here has read through the terms and conditions of using Google Maps, for instance. Anyone? Read through the entire terms and conditions of using Google Maps? 3 people, that's great. Took you days probably. But most people don't. And I think we're all aware that we want to see a shift in the paradigm here where we're coming from this world where we get free services in exchange for handing over our personal information. And we're not really sure what we're getting out of that other than the free services. But what is a company like Google doing with our information? So we're thinking about developing technology. Let me take that back. We are developing technology where we put trust back in you, the human, and you get to decide who and where and what and when gets done with your data. And again, it makes you think of different business models as well, though. Another large problem we have is people hacking into databases and taking our personal data. Banks and government systems should be quite well protected, but often they're broken into. And so we think about ways also we can protect that personal data, for instance, distributing it in immutable ledgers to add a whole different level of security to our data. So trusted human identity is one of the main things we focus on. In fact, after this, if you get a chance, and head over to the middle here, we have a really cool demonstration of mobile-based blockchain identity with our partner SK Telekom. But moving on from your human identity, of course, we start thinking about machine identity. So I'm just one person who generates a lot of data. and I do so through certain actions. But we all have a lot of devices and machines that act on our behalf today. And they're going to get a lot smarter over time, and they're going to start collecting data on our behalf. And artificial intelligence is going to allow them to start making decisions on our behalf as well. So what we really think a lot about is, how do we bring trusted identity to machines? So if you marry this together with this idea of machine-to-machine economies, we want to ensure that all the machines or the devices are trusted. So they're acting on our behalf the right way. And the data they collect and transmit and share with each other and other systems is trusted. So a lot of our work is going into this idea. As a telecom, we're all being told that billions of new devices are coming onto our network. So how are we sure that those devices are ones that we expect to be on our network? And wouldn't it be nice if we knew ahead of time that they were coming? And we can constantly be checking if every device in our system should be in our system. And that the data they're collecting and using and whatnot is also trusted, especially through the transmission. So we bring these two things together. I, as a human, have identity that I want trusted, but all the devices, like maybe this scooter, it's data that it collects about me. So we talk a lot about automobiles. We work in Germany. I believe it's the #1 industry in Germany. And so we work with a lot of companies. We have a great co-innovation program going with Bosch, but we also talk with Siemens, and we talk with car companies, Daimler, Volkswagen, and a few others, BMW. And we're all thinking ahead like, okay, so in a few years, this car that I own, or maybe not own, is intelligent and making decisions. So I think about, okay, so this car knows on Monday I drive to work and I stop at the coffee shop. After work, maybe I go to the gym for a workout, and it's memorizing and taking in all these patterns. Maybe on Tuesday, it knows that I have a 4-hour stretch and it rents itself out. So all this is coming to being here, and we want systems underneath that we can trust. And that's where we're putting a tremendous amount of research and investment and whatnot. And now I'll hand it back to Alexandra to start talking about blockchain.
All right, so as we're the blockchain group, we started to think, can actually blockchain help us, and how exactly it can help us? So let us summarize the things that were mentioned by John, and on the next slide, you will see that we think and we do believe that blockchain can provide us the unique feature, which is trusted anonymity. So let us summarize. Can we be anonymous today, but yet trusted? Just think about it. We talk with some of the train companies, and they are thinking about providing to the consumers the service where I can take a train ride, where I can stay anonymous because I don't want to be trackable, but yet trusted. In a nutshell, we actually want to recreate the old days where we could get on the ride, pay the ride by cash, and nobody actually will never know that we used the train and we took the ride. So imagine the world of cross-mobility where you use a lot of cars, bicycles, scooters, trains, and imagine the world when you can be trackable. We don't want it. So we do believe that as a consumer, we want to stay anonymous, but yet trusted. And this is the feature that is provided by blockchain. So blockchain uses all the different credentials to be authenticated on the network so that none of those can be correlated to me, but yet I'm trusted because it's verified and approved by the blockchain. This is the human identity, and we think a lot about this. But what we do believe is that also the IoT devices, as mentioned before by John, deserve the privacy because think about all the data that is correlated to you, the car data, the train data, and people can build the profiles around it. So for the sake of being interoperable and for the sake of being trusted for us and private as humans, we do believe that the devices also deserve the trusted anonymity. This is the bigger challenge that we see and we have to solve for us. But yet, we face a lot of more challenges. So let's take a look at them. And actually, we prepared a sneak peek for you from the GSMA report on what actually disturbing us on the way towards, all of you know, the hockey stick prediction for the amount of IoT devices in the future. And this is, we think, three main problems. So the first one is trusted IoT identities that we mentioned before. And this is how we can solve it with blockchain. Blockchain provides us unique cryptographical credentials that can enable IoT devices becoming autonomous economic agents in the future. Because the IoT devices will have the keys to sign the transactions, to verify the transactions, and be part of the whole payment ecosystem. This is the first. The second one, we do believe we are lacking the scalability in connectivity today. So we do believe that the systems that provide SIM card profiles, that identificate users, are complicated, and it's a question, can they scale in the future to serve billions and billions of IoT devices? And that's where we believe the blockchain can help to provide autonomous provisioning at scale. Because in a world when every IoT device is autonomous economic agents, imagine they have wallets and then can buy SIM profiles dynamically on their own. So we're going to upload the backend and have more intelligence on the edge on the IoT devices. The third problem, imagine the services that we use today for mobility, they're not interoperable. So we use these scooters in Berlin, and as we got to Barcelona, we needed to register on the platforms that are here in Barcelona to be able to use the service. So we do believe that blockchain provides this unique one layer which every service can use with the trusted identities to become truly interoperable in the world of trusted IoT ecosystems. All right, that's it for the blockchain. Let's get to the...
So now we're going to get actually into describing and showing off some of our work. We're talking about mobility and we're talking about automobiles, but we're really talking about ecosystems, machine-to-machine economies. And so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to demonstrate one such economy that we're going to launch this year if everything goes well. And we're going to use talking about our scooter here. So I'm sure a lot of you have used these rideshare scooters. I signed up here in Barcelona. It took, I think, 22 minutes for Diego. I had to show my driver's license and take a picture of the back and front. I had to show my ID card back and front, and I had to put in my payment mechanism. And you'll also notice when you do a ride, there's always a minimum amount that you have to pay. Because, of course, you have to pay for the credit card fees, right? So one of the things we also think about on the business side is microtransactions. And there's a lot of beauty in blockchain about reducing those costs almost to zero for microtransactions. So at this time, I'm going to invite my boss, Dr. Alex Choi, on the stage. Alex leads the research and technology at Deutsche Telekom. Hi, Alex. Good to see you.
Hi, John. Thank you for inviting me to this wonderful stages. So
no problem.
Yeah.
Give me a moment here, and I'm going to get my phone going.
While you're getting ready, let me just introduce myself because I was working at the SK Telekom before I joined DT about 2 years ago. So it's really my pleasure to be here standing on the stage with Sasha and John to be able to participate in this wonderful demonstrations, blockchain. So please, what is this?
Oh, good. Well, this is Freddie. This is the name of our scooter that we have on stage here today. And what I want everybody to come away with is I have a trusted self-sovereign identity working with our startup partner Telekom based in Berlin. And I have an app on my phone that represents my identity. Mm-hmm. And I can walk up to a scooter in the future and just start using it like this.
Okay, can you just show us how it works?
I can. So I'm going to open up
excited to see
the application here that you can all see. You see Freddie represented in the app, and I want to book Freddie. You might notice, though, that in the blue bar, it represents just a fraction of a cryptocurrency that you can use for payment. Now, the application for the ride sharing is jumping over to my self-sovereign identity. And this is the cool part. My identity exists with me. And I'm going to connect to this ride-sharing service and tell the service what I want it to have about me. And in this case, it's basically my name. And now we'll connect to the scooter. Excellent. And I can start riding.
That's it?
That's it.
That's simple? Wow.
And you can't all see it, but the scooter's on now. And
Wow.
hopefully I won't leap off the stage.
This is incredible.
You guys might want to watch out. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But if you look closely, you can see the wheel moving right now. The scooter's on, it's activated. I'm cruising around Barcelona right now. And it was that quick. So timing-wise, 21 minutes to get on the Jago. That's the turquoise ones here in Barcelona, to just mere moments. What do you think? You want to give it a rev?
This is wonderful.
Okay.
You told me that this blockchain demonstration is also you are invited my former company SK Telekom to make a kind of a blockchain alliance, identity alliance. So how is it important to have such kind of operator partners?
Yeah, well, I think
drive this.
First of all, it's about we live in a global world, and we all need to partner with each other in this idea about open, inclusive blockchain networks, right? So there's no reason why SK Telekom and Deutsche Telekom can't partner, along with maybe some other telecoms, to provide the infrastructure for systems such as this. Oh, can you go back to the screen share, please? But imagine that self-sovereign identity that I just showed you, is in cooperation in other places, and I can go across borders, and I'm still recognized as that trust and sovereign person. I'll wrap this up, though, and I can hit stop. And the scooter's off. And 3, 2, 1. It gives you an audio signal. It's locked. It's done. My ride is over. I can end my rent. And here I can see what I spent. It's not a lot of money. Now, I don't know if any of you are calculating the value of Ether right now, but this isn't too much money. And there's no transactional cost in the background other than a little bit of the gas that you use. And I think it's significantly less than what you get in the credit card charging networks today, or a lot of the attempts that telecoms have made on mobile payments. So it's really bringing this whole thing together. We have my ID, which is with me. The scooter has an ID that's with the scooter. I can agree what data to share. And I also got onto a service really quickly, So we actually are going to work together to put these scooters in Bonn, Germany, so that my boss can ride one to and from all the different offices.
I'm really looking forward to it.
So if you get a chance, come to Bonn this summer, and you can have a chance maybe to ride one of these scooters, if Alex lets you, okay? Because he'll be the guy probably with the keys. Oh, no keys involved.
Okay.
Isn't that the nice part? Yeah.
Good. It was really fantastic. And thank
That's
you.
good.
Thank you. Let's give John a big round of applause. So I will step.
No, we have 2 more slides.
We stay together?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just a little more to wrap up on this one. Back to the, great. So what I want to relay this now to is what's going on today. So in Germany, there's 2 large car sharing programs. One's run by BMW and runs by Daimler. And they're actually merging now into one system, but there's a catch. They have to be open, which is fantastic. It's nice to have open systems that a lot of people can participate in, but they're centralized. So we want to imagine what would the world be like if we can introduce decentralized systems like this, where everybody can participate. And here's just a last example if you want to wrap your mind around some of the differences, right? So on the left, you see a lot of silos. BMW and Daimler and other programs, they're in silos working, and they're not so efficient. But what we really believe is that we're going to move over to systems that are decentralized, and you get a lot more efficiencies. We get cost reductions, for one. If everybody's using the same system for identity and whatnot, we all get to build our business models on top of it. And there's a new word we're trying to come up with here, because in this new decentralized world, we don't necessarily have backends anymore. In software development, you think a lot about the cost of maintaining backends. Well, we haven't come up with a name for it yet, but we're trying to get there. But anyway, Alex, thank you so much for coming on stage with us.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
So in the second part of our demonstration, we're going to Alexandra is actually going to show you what it's like as a software developer to come into a system that we affectionately call mesh. A year and a half ago, we came up with this idea for a managed ecosystem of super distributed hashes. That's just supposed to be a little bit of fun. But it's actually turned out to be kind of true. So when we first got into this, we thought, there's not going to be one blockchain that we all use. There's probably going to be many. And oh, wouldn't it be cool if we can design a system where you can access all of them like this? So that's what we're going to demonstrate. And that's what's sitting behind, by the way, the system that we're working on here, and what we want to bring into the world to enable all kinds of machine-to-machine economies and ecosystems.
So let's take a look. What we thought about is that every blockchain, from our perspective, fits a particular use case. So we do believe that in the future, there won't be one blockchain that will execute everything. It will be particular blockchains that are responsible for certain features. So what we created with Mesh is the decentralized IoT development ecosystem, because we do believe that in the future, blockchains and IoT will go hand in hand. And what we connect in Mesh, we connect the power of blockchains with trusted IoT identities. And our passion is, what do we do with it? We decentralize the ecosystems. So let's take a look at the system. Thank you. We call it hashtags for now, and now I will demonstrate to you what we were working around for the last 1.5 years. And imagine that we want to launch such ecosystem as we showed you today with this e-scooter, and let's start using our service.
That's right. How are you going to log in?
Well, we can log in with the methods that already existed today. We can use our Google account, we can use a GitHub account, but we also can log in into our service with self-sovereign identity, with Telekom again. So let's try it. Just reload. All right, so we logged in. The screen that was shared was the same, we didn't show, but now we're in the system. And imagine that we want to create the infrastructure. So our project is about creating the blockchain infrastructure that runs underneath this app that we showed you. So for instance, as we work together with our partners in the Toyota Alliance, let's imagine that Toyota starts to create the infrastructure, as you can see the blockchain on top of the left, for this application. And the underlying infrastructure, we call it stacks. So what we need to build a stack that composes different blockchains. So let's take a look, how do we do this? We start by adding a stack, and this stack will be responsible for the e-scooter part. So let's call it e-scooter. And here on the left, we see two different options. First option, we can deploy it on the clouds. So if we know that our nodes are very heavy, we will go rather with cloud deployments. And a second option is to deploy it on device, and I will show it in a second. And the device in this case is the e-scooter. And this is the trusted identity that we have to have so that the users can use the scooters on our platform. So as you've seen in the application that we showed before, we would pay with Ether. So let's start with the payment function. And this is what we also built into our system, because our thinking is that people still don't really know how to use blockchains. So by naming these functions, we precisely describe what can be done with a certain blockchain. So payments available in the system, we can pay with IOTA, with Ethereum or Bitcoin. So let's go with Ethereum. And another function that we need an identity. And here we're going to use Telekom identity for the end device and sovereign on the backend for identity management. So let's deploy this and set up the infrastructure with, let's say, 2 nodes. And we're going to install it on clouds and deploy the nodes. So basically what developers get here, it's an instant access to different kind of blockchains that will enable different use cases in one place, in one stack. So here it comes. We have deployed the nodes for our infrastructure. And what we also build on top, we build a lightweight abstraction. It's REST APIs that developers can use talking to blockchains, so that if they want to exchange the blockchains afterwards, they can do so without changing the interfaces. So this can be seen in the Swagger UI, and it's very easy to use. This is more for the developer community here. And let's get back to the installation and take a look to the devices. So actually, I brought something with me. This is the board that we have within the scooter. And this is together with our partner Riddle Code, and you can see the machine identity on the board. So this is basically the insides of the scooter. And how we provision this, so you see the Freddy is already provisioned. And if we're gonna add a new device, scooter, and we call it John. And here we can select the wallet that will be talking to the ecosystem, and let's choose Jolacom. And we also want the device to be connected. So what you get in this system, you get all-in-one blockchain and connectivity provisioned onto the devices and the blockchain backend. So with connectivity, we download the wallet. And here it comes. We install it on the device, and it becomes part of our infrastructure. All right. So let me get back to the workspace. And to summarize, this is the ecosystem that we enabled, and we're also happy to announce the first integration of the application. And this is the IOTA. IOTA is a startup based in Berlin, IOTA-based marketplace. It's a marketplace where the IoT devices can share data. I will just demonstrate it. So in this workplace that we have, we also can start using between the partners that are participating in this ecosystem, the data sharing marketplace. We can see the partners that participated in this project, and by going to the dashboard, you can see it here. We can also add the scooters, and the scooters can sell the data to each other, for instance, air pollution data. So really excited about this. That's the first decentralized application that we deployed. And this is it for now. John, maybe you have some questions.
I think you might want to drive home the point about the connectivity, right? So in case it went too quickly on that, the general idea is I'm a software developer that works at an IoT manufacturer, for instance. And of course, I need connectivity for my IoT devices. So what's different here about getting connectivity than today?
So what I'm really excited about is that you can get connectivity in one system. So you can get the blockchain unique features that you will need for the IoT devices to make sure that they authenticated in a trusted way and also connected to the network in a trusted way. And this all can be done in one system, and you can build the whole infrastructure and use very simple interfaces to talk to infrastructure.
And I think this is where we're really excited about what we're working on, because we're condensing the time that it takes to get connectivity on a global sense. If you have a product that you want to launch in multiple geographies, there's a lot of phone calls and business development to get connectivity. So we see a future where you can do it from a web interface, for instance. But in addition to that, you're getting all the software tools to build your software for IoT devices that are by their nature decentralized. So I think it all comes together in a really beautiful place. It's good.
Okay.
Great.
So I think that we now can switch to the last part before the Q&A part, and this is the presentation by our partners. So I'm really excited to welcome them on stage. I don't say
That's right.
exactly.
There we go.
This is Toyota, and they will be.
stickers on there.
Hello, everybody. My name is Alexei Krabrov. I'm the Chief Community Officer of the Trusted IoT Alliance, and we have also here Peter Bush, the head of the mobility group, and Dirk Slama, who is the president of Trusted IoT Alliance. And Peter and Dirk also work for Bosch, we'll tell you a little bit about the Trusted IoT Alliance and the ecosystem we built, kind of building on what you just heard from T-Labs. I think this is an excellent example of what we want to achieve as an alliance, right? So we basically want to 10x this ecosystem where this kind of connectivity will exist between multiple devices and multiple companies. The alliance came about 2 years ago, and now it has more than 50 members, including corporates like Bosch and Siemens, and also a lot of startups. I want to give a big shout out to the startups present here. We have Fetch, we have Streamer. I'd like you guys to stand up, and Moeco. Please give a big round of applause to all the startups, all the members of this ecosystem who made us all the way here. A lot of them are in Europe, a lot of them are in the United States. So what do we want to achieve, right? I can just give you a quick example. I left my passport in my Airbnb because I'm from the United States. We don't need passports inside countries, right? We have driver's license, and it took multiple attempts, right? They say, did you upload a photo? Do we recognize your face? Have you been here before? No, this is my first MWC, right? So basically all these steps, I had to go back. Fortunately, I'm close. But this is exactly what machines will need to do when talking to each other. Are you authorized to talk to the system? What if the system is life critical? What if it is a factory where an unauthorized device can cause an accident and so forth? So I think companies are extremely aware that this integration should be trusted. Right, so this is the foremost concern. If you connect equipment, which is key infrastructure equipment, which keeps privacy data, by law, you have to set up a trust infrastructure. At the same time, you want to enable interoperability, right? So you want, obviously, like I want to drive in this to my house, and I want my house to start warming up my food for dinner already when I'm approaching to turn on the lights and open the garage, right? So this is the kind of future we all are building here, and so the Toyota is a vehicle, effectively, to make it happen, and obviously it involves technical integration. We need to decide what protocols will be there. How do we connect developers? Now we decide what are the business drivers for this, right? So the DLT mobility area changes ownership, so we need to securitize assets, also using blockchain, but now, for instance, electric charging is another area. So I think there are multiple areas where we need this trust. And I want to now hand it off to Dirk, who will basically outline the challenges which we run.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Alexei. Can we move on 2 slides, please?
Yeah.
One more?
Yeah.
So, great, thank you. So, hi everybody, my name is Dirk. I work for Bosch. I also work for the Trusted IoT Alliance, as Alexei said earlier on. And what's really exciting for me is that this helps us bring together different types of people, different types of companies. So I'm standing here, you can see here, fully suited up. We have the leather jacket type of person. Peter is a good example, half jeans, half suit, right? And I think it's really important that we have big companies, like you mentioned earlier on, BMW, Daimler, Bosch, etc. We have startup companies. And what we do at the Trusted IoT Alliance is we create an environment where we can work together on these exciting new technologies. And one vehicle that we're using to do this is what we're calling a challenge. So the basic idea of a challenge is that we find an end customer who has a real problem. We find companies who have cool enabling technologies, and we work with startups that take the problem, take some of the enabling technologies, take some of the things they have themselves, and build solutions for this. And part of the challenge is that we then basically have a jury that basically selects the best solution for the problems outlined by the end customer, and then actually key part of the award is that the winning startup wins a pilot with the end customer. And I think bringing together these different perspectives is really important, and it helps us really advancing the space of blockchain, distributed ledger, etc. So here you can see a couple of different examples. One example is the Smart Construction Challenge. So this is a challenge that we just launched 2 weeks ago. We have as partners, for example, Zyblin, which is a major construction company, or Liebherr, which is a manufacturer of excavators and cranes. We have the TÜV, which is a certification company. We have, for example, partners here that bring in building information model technology or localization technology like Autodesk and here, and take all of this together, take some of the use cases that we have identified, like, for example, construction assurance, like, for example, smart worker, etc., okay, and work together with startups to address these type of problems. And yeah, take about 6 months to work together until we have the final solution and can decide who actually won this challenge. We think it's a very exciting way of working together. Another challenge is in the area of logistics. So here we are still in the process of bringing together the ecosystem. We have identified the use case. The use case is on transfer of risk. So when you're in logistics, you have the problem that you transfer the goods, for example, from a manufacturer to a logistics service provider, to a different carrier, and then back to the receiver, okay? And you need to manage the transfer of risk. Who owns the risk of transporting the good, okay? And again, this is an exciting use case, we think, for blockchain and DLT type of technologies. And then we have another example, which is the EV challenge. And I think, Peter, this is something you should talk about.
Okay. Thanks, Dirk. Hello, I'm excited to talk to you about the EV challenge. My name is, as you said, is Peter Busch. I'm the product owner for mobility in the distributed ledger technologies at Robert Bosch. And you will see in the following slide not the word blockchain anymore. So we're not talking about blockchain, I'm sorry. However, I'm going to tell about it. So what is the EV challenge? We thought about bringing the blockchain technologies, the distributed ledger technology, really on the road, really doing something, really not only talking about it, do another proof of concept, really having it on the road. So what we now envisioned here is, as Alex and John already pointed out, is we would like to experience the real distributed ledger technologies. So the EV challenge here, what we see is we built up the mobility working group in the Trusted IT Alliance. So we collected all the interesting mobility stakeholders in the industry together, and lots of very cool startups. And as he already pointed out, we have here Streamer, we have Fetch AI, we have Riddle and Code, we have lots of really, really interesting startups, but as the first time really making together business with the big corporates. And I can tell you, this is not really easy, yeah, to lift the fast pace of the startups as well, the more slow and secure and safe stuff of the corporates. So it's a challenging process. So the name challenge is really fitting quite well here. And what were we up to? As you can see here, we have a really nice car. And it all started out when we had lunch in Stuttgart, like a few months ago. And John and me were joking about a new car that we have. And so, hey, we have the Mobile World Congress in a few months. Why don't we take the car and drive there and show the world what we can do with this car on blockchain? Yeah. So, and it all started there. So the first title was Road to Barcelona. Then it changed a little bit and say, okay, why don't we expand it a little bit and go through whole Europe somehow with the car? But to be honest, it's not really that possible at the moment. The car is here in Barcelona at the moment, and we had a really cool hackathon together with G-Labs, where we have had the possibilities for all the other startups to go to the car, show a little bit what is possible, what their ideas are. So what you see here, the main use cases what we are envisioning are really doing all the thing you can think about in a mobility space where you could use distributed ledger technologies. And I say distributed ledgers because this is really the dream that John already talked about. Not always to be needed platforms if you want to charge my car, if I want to enter some IT infrastructures, if I want to park, if I want to use some data or even sell data from the car, have some kind of marketplaces that we have here as well as use cases. So the whole roadmap, what you see here is we started out last year, and then we now climbing or stepping from hackathon to workshop to other hackathon and really doing stuff on the car and really with all the difficulties that we have at the moment. However, the I-Pace is an excellent EV car to really put all this technology that we from Bosch have. We are incorporating lots of nice connectivity units in it, accessing directly the CAN bus, making all the data signals available for the partners, and they are using it for their challenges now. So they have entries into this challenge and would like to win, of course. The end will be the Bosch Connected World in May 2019. So where we can see, okay, which solution do we have now on the car? What is the car capable of doing on the distributed ledger space here? Yeah. So is it able to charge on without registering? The same that John showed us with this nice thing here. Would like to drive it as well. Come to Bonn. And as well, is it able to enter infrastructures? Is it able to collect data and sell it? So we did lots of business modeling in the past and always thought about what could be the incentive of a driver to collect data and put it somewhere in the network for others. So the main thing that we have now, we really have now an incentive because the car itself can earn money by selling that data on the distributed ledger environment, make it in safe and so on. So, and to doing that, as you said, the roadmap here, we go from Barcelona at the end maybe to Berlin. And the main thing what we have here really is trying to, as I said already, accessing charging poles without registering, just using them, entering the distributed ledger space, trying to enter parking structures, what it might be in smart cities or something like that. And any IoT structure that we see, maybe as well communicating with the intelligent transporting system in smart cities. But when you think about the car gets more and more automated. So if you have a highly automated car in the future without a driver in it, the car needs to needs to be able to charge for itself, to use all the structures which are in the smart city maybe, which are on the roads out there. And if we have, for example, an e-wallet in the car, then it can pay for these services. It can get as well data for that. It can sell services. And then as well have this use cases done. So what you are seeing here from the technical part of view, we have this gateway in the car, and then we're using different other hardware really to understand what can we do with this data now, who can do with that. And now we are inviting all the interested parties, the startups that you see, to really show something. One example is that we did together here with Streamer, with Fetch, Riddle and Code, and really accessing that car data which is collecting, accessing it directly via the CAN bus, so we can really have data from the charging units, from the steering units, from the braking units. So since we are Bosch, we quite know how to do that, how to get the data, how to analyze the data. And the startups now, what are they doing? They are really understanding, oh, what kind of data do I have now from this road unit where I am at the moment? What can I do with it? So we can really put the data somewhere on some kind of a marketplace and let others use that data as well. And it will work out with lots of interesting agent technology in the background, so understanding how to get that data from the car into the cloud to some kind of a distributed ledger technology network, and then get it available, make it available to others who can maybe sell it. Think about cars on the road, and the one car is entering a hazard spot somehow, entering some hazardous, maybe black ice on the road or something like that, and can communicate that data to cars behind me, like 5 kilometers behind me. And this data can decide now to actually buy data around the environment of that car and be much safer in the future. And I think that's what it's all about. When we talk about seamless technology, the second most important thing is safety on the roads for us as Bosch, definitely. So this machine witness use case really, where Streamer, Fetch, Real and Code and all the others are working together, is really some very interesting use case where we can see how this could look like in the future. But as well, these are only tests at the moment. So how do I gonna start the video now? Is it automatic starting? Ah, yeah. This one? Hört ihr was? Hört man nichts? I think there is no sound. You can't hear anything. Okay, I think it's self-explanatory. We can see the comparison of these two slides. One on with smart agents, on the other side the classical way. Yeah? Okay. I think Maria, I think that video will get is available via social media in the future, so we can have a look at it again and maybe talk to us. But however, I think now would be the time to have some question and answers for the audience.
Sure. Yeah, thank you very much. Unfortunately, the audio didn't work on there, but I'll relate it back to when Alexandra was talking about autonomous economic agents. And what the video wanted to represent was each charging station is an autonomous economic agent, and it can be broadcasting out in, in real time what it's learned about its environment and who should come charge where and when, rather than letting humans make that decision. So it all does become automated. So I think that's how we can wrap it up.
Okay.
But we're going to spend the rest of our time, a little less than 15 minutes, and just open it up to any types of questions that you may have about what we talked about, from the blockchain technology that we've been working with to thinking about the business models to the co-innovation. So if anybody has any questions, you can do it now. But we'll also be around for a while after this presentation to talk to money as well. So there's a question here.
Oh.
Hi everybody, it's Carl from Streamer. Thanks Peter for talking through that slide. I've just got a question about, we talk about the data economy and the machine-to-machine economy. One of the things that we're finding interesting with Streamer is the idea of giving data monetization to the individual drivers. So you start to get this relationship between companies who aggregate the data and the individual drivers who can actually get some monetization back for sharing their data in a GDPR world. They have more understanding of their rights to share that data. I just wondered if anyone could talk a little bit about the challenge really with all of this when we want to try and bring in new technologies is engaging with the car companies and how we might be able to bridge that gap between individual sovereignty over data and the car companies coming along on that journey with us and what might help with that.
Maybe just comment directly on that, because inside of the mobility working group in the Trust IT Alliance, the main focus and the main goal that we see here is to bring these different corporates and startups together. And it's quite a challenge now to really overcome the classic thinking that we have still with the OEMs, the big automakers, but as well the tier ones as Bosch, the suppliers and all that, to really understand what the future will hold us for us. Yeah, because the question that we have all the time is who owns the data. Yeah? So this is really one of the classic questions that we cannot really answer yet. However, one of the answers, the possible answers, could be really lie in the future of the distributed ledger technologies, where you have one fair market which is really outside and everyone can access it very securely and without having 1/3 or one intermediary in the background controlling that. Yeah? And really making the prices, making that data available that they want to share with you, and doing just everything with your data. And we do not want to have that future, to go it own ways, not only in decentralized direction. And so maybe here we are, that's why we came together. We have another picture of the future where we have more access to every data which is owned by us, which is generated by us, and can really make use of it, and really then get the most out of it, what we want with it. Yep.
Yeah, I would probably make an additional comment on this, right? Bosch and Telekom got together to co-innovate. And the very first meeting we had, we kind of looked at each other like, well, how are we going to make money? And we're like, we don't know. Let's just start building this thing. And I wouldn't say it was a eureka moment, but it was a really nice moment where we launched into this. And what I want to get to the point is, It takes a long time for new technology from startups to work their way into corporate enterprise software systems. In telco, it can take like 7 years. 7 years is a long time. It's a long time for startups to have enough money to make it, right? So another thing we did was we gathered together the people here in the audience with Bosch, with Telekom, and we're working together to try to shrink that time, right? So I just want to add some color to what it's like, all of us working together in this. And again, I think there's a shift in mentality about business models, which is something I like to go back to a lot, but we're all here for that, right? Is to progress into the future and working together.
I think what John is saying is really important, that you have these different perspectives, people thinking about different timelines. 7 years, you have startups who might have a run rate of 7 weeks or 7 months or something like this, and large companies don't think that way, and bringing these different perspectives together, really super important. I think at the end of the day, also the point that Peter made, this question of who owns the data is something that we see pretty much in every challenge that we were talking about early on. So yes, that's a question on automotive, but also when I was looking at the logistics example from earlier on, or the construction challenge, in every of these environments we have the same question: who owns the data, and how can we use blockchain, how can we use DLT type of technologies to at least make it transparent, if not maybe a little bit more democratic, how to deal with this problem?
Exactly. And also to summarize, we were talking a lot about trusted data. So I think this is one of the challenges today, because as you described before, some of the companies have very long cycles. So how do you get on the chipset with your trusted ID? So this is a lot what we are all working together, and we think that this is the main component that will enable trusted data on the large-scale ecosystems in the future. So this is very important.
And hopefully I'd imagine that we'll get this situation where some of the pioneering first movers will be able to say to their customers, would you like to buy this car, it will make you money, or would you like to sign up for this phone service, it will make you money, and then eventually everybody will sort of come on board in time. But it takes, as always with the web and so on, it takes the guts of some of the early pioneers to jump on board, but we'll get there.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Who else has some thoughts? Anyone?
Maybe an additional comment maybe to the startups who are involved here as well, because I think that's very new for us as Bosch, to really come into a new collaboration mode together with startups. And so we are experiencing very interesting times this day, because we have a completely new area of technologies coming to us, but on the other side we have a completely new disruptive way of how to work together in the future.
No, it's true. We have representatives from Iveco who are thinking about a lot of the hardware side and some of the back-end systems.
Yeah.
We have some gentlemen from Riddle & Code and Yolacom in the back. We have Fetch and we have Streamer. So if I'm missing anybody else, I apologize, but that's 5 startups that we're working with together. And we've come quite a ways from the first conversations we had well over a year ago. So.
And it's just interesting to have these different speeds of these companies coming together here,
No, absolutely.
So really, I just say, I know how hard it is sometimes to work with us. However, I know how really very, very beneficial it will be for society as well, if we come to new working models here and use this, because that's really the case. Beyond the blockchain hype, what we had the last years, now we come to real implementation. Now we understand a little bit better what it can really change. The complete society, the complete technology landscape out there. And that we have to do together. And standardization is really the keyword here. And no company, not a Daimler, not a Bosch, not an IBM, can do it alone. So we really need to go in a standardized way to really come all together, not only the big ones, but as well all the startups with their really agile, fast way to help us to go that way. That's what I can stress with Trusted IT Alliance here.
Actually, I'd like to follow up on what Peter said, right? So as you see, Telekom is leading here by sharing, right? It's leading by example. It's basically showing what it's doing. It presents the code. The code is open source. We did a hackathon on that.
Oh, yeah.
So it's sharing what it does, and so the Trusted IT Alliance, basically that's the mentality. So I want to invite basically all of you who are not yet in Trusted IT Alliance to consider joining it to discuss these questions, right? Because we don't have the answers. The answers, we have some of the answers, have the idea where they will come from, but we need to get together. We need to discuss the marketplace. We need to discuss the connectivity. By definition, it is collaborative, right? We have to have the self-sovereign identities, for instance, adopted, right, by as many people as necessary. We need the network effects. And also we need to set up the open source frameworks. We need to set up governance frameworks. This is very new. I think open source foundations did not deal with this before. So we're just entering the era where we need to set up trusted, neutral, fair, central hubs which will govern consortium blockchains and which will allow access to them and make it, economically interesting. But I think technically we just have to solve how do we do this, how do we work, how do we talk, and then we figure out how do we make money. But when we do it, we need to make sure that every step of the way it's trusted, it's secure, it's private, and it's legally compliant. So I think it's a process which we'd like to run in Toyota. We really appreciate that Bosch and Telekom do this under the umbrella of Toyota from the beginning as a collaboration. So we want to invite everybody to join us.
Yeah. I can't stress this enough. I mean, for me, this has been a really fascinating journey. I mean, our work together over the last year, but also in the broader ecosystem. I mean, if you look at the roles that the different companies play. I mean, if you look at a traditional telco company, you would expect, well, they kind of move data from A to B, right? Or if you look at the Bosch, well, we're tier 1, right? All of this is breaking up, all of this is changing. There's so much movement in there, and so many different people with such different DNA coming together. So if I would look around here, for example, Peter, you said earlier on it can be hard to work with us.
Yeah.
Who here could give me a 2-minute summary of ISO 26262 or ISIL, or how ISIL is moving to SOTIF at the moment? Any takers? Okay, nobody. But if the solution that we were presenting early on is to be built into a mission-critical type of infrastructure, if you're building this into a vehicle, be this a scooter, be this a car, you're suddenly entering a world which is very different from the startup world, right? In the startup world, basically people go, minimal viable product, okay? And well, if it works not today, then tomorrow I'll update it in the cloud and try again, right? If you're building hardware, I think a lot of Bosch people, they have this thing, start of production, tattooed on their forearm, because they know this is the date they're working towards. And once you press the button, right, so once you have hardware being cranked out, there's no going back, because the hardware is deployed in the field. And I think to bring these two different worlds together, that's really important, to get the innovation that we get from the startups, but also the expertise on, you mentioned earlier on CAN bus or verification, validation, these kind of things that you need to bring in to actually really bring these kind of assets out in the production line. And I think that's the opportunity that we have here in working together.
Yes, and I also think that we are excited to stop talking about blockchain and what it can achieve, but really focus on the use cases, right? So showing the real use case, the real app. And I think for every user, it's interesting to own their own data and to be able to log into services cross countries, cross borders, with just one wallet, with just one identity. And it's also the rights that we were showing to you, because today in a lot of systems, a very short rights are not even feasible, because it's not actually feasible from the economical perspective from the backend. It's just too expensive to execute this right if you want to have a ride in 5 minutes. So that's what we really want to show, the power of blockchain and enabling all these beautiful use cases that are not feasible with the systems that we have in place today.
Exactly.
I think so.
Yeah. And I think we had it at the beginning with the machine-to-machine economy. You said it at the beginning. And since we as Bosch has the focus of Internet of Things in the moment, so we will leave our standard position as a tier 1, going more and more in the terms of Internet of Things, expert, provider, or something like that. And when you think about it, every device in the future will be connected. Every car, every bike, every watch, everything will be connected. And how do we really work with that in the future with everything is connected? We talked about trust all the time, yeah. We talk about transparency, we talk about then payment in the future, digital payment and all that stuff. So lots of challenges. We do not really know how to really accomplish that. I think here we have the right setup, and then we can talk about these use cases, how to go into this world of an Internet of Things.
Exactly, that's how we came together by saying Deutsche Telekom is Internet and Bosch is Things. So together we form a nice combination towards Internet of Things.
And if you need help building ISO 26262 into Mesh, talk to us.
Okay.
That sounds
We
good.
will.
Okay.
Well, good. Thank you all for joining. I think
Thank
that
you so
wraps up
much.
our session today.
you
So
very
thank
much.
you all for listening to us.